Ghibli Fest is over!
Yeah.
For this year, 2019 anyway. Hopefully it's back next year.
So we recently saw the last Ghibli movie in theaters for the year that they were showing, and it was The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which is a really good movie. And
As they all are.
This YouTube video is called The Misery of The Tale of Princess Kaguya because basically there's so much misery in that movie. We kind of have an interesting perspective of it where through the stories and the practice of Vipassana meditation, there's a lot of things that kind of reflect that practice and the understandings of it in the movie. From even things like I noticed where the beaming of light comes up in the bamboo shoot and he cuts it down and he thinks it's like some message from God, and he just kind of comes up with this story in his head about what this thing is.
And then is immediately attached to it.
And then keeps making stories and says like, oh, this is like what God wants, and this is a divine message, and she's meant to be a princess, and he gets all this attachment, and he thinks it has to be this way, and he's like the dad is like that for the whole movie up to the very end. He still doesn't understand when she leaves and everything. And it's just like in Vipassana, it'd be like there's some shining light, and you think like, oh, this is a message from the divine or something. This is what I want, but it's like, no, just the light's not the important thing. You just keep doing the practice. You just pay attention to your breath and stuff. And that's what they talk about in the discourses of the course and stuff. And just like a lot of things like that.
A lot of stuff about change too. That's like a huge theme of it. Is spoilers for the movie, but Kaguya grows up really fast, and like when it's wintertime and she finds out spring comes back, things like that. They're just very directly on the nose. Like things change, everything goes in cycles, etc. They always talk about the circle. Even the song they sing through the movie is about round and round and round, and all that. Like everything is impermanent and constantly changing and coming and going, and this kind of attachment, like, oh, she has to be a princess. Like this is the static thing they randomly will come up with, and then throughout the whole movie, this static idea of Kaguya has to be on this path to princesshood, nobility, and whatever else, rather than change. Like, oh no, maybe this isn't the way to go, and letting things flow around and move as they should. There's a lot of stuff about tradition in there, and how the traditions being static and just for the sake of it, they're harmful, like very directly and obviously. But if you're stuck in them, then miseries abound, and everybody around that whole movie is pretty much miserable to these traditions. All the ministers and the princes and all that, they're all just major attachment to weird customs and weird ideas and perspectives of the world, and all of them are miserable.
Yeah, and then Kaguya, even, she's the one who's like stuck in it kind of, and doesn't know doesn't have any like, doesn't really choose to go back to the forest for a long time because she doesn't really realize what she's like getting stuck into or whatever. And then she wants to escape, or she doesn't want to go back to her thing, so she's then attached to the worldly stuff and the nature and everything, which is like more of a true attachment, or it's not just like in your head about it. She's more like a heartfelt like feeling about being alive and things, but it's also the misery of dying is there. And it's actually in the English version versus the Japanese version, they changed the song at the very end, and I don't know if you noticed, but they usually it's like birds, bugs, bees, grass, flowers, and trees teach people how to feel, or teach me how to feel is the Japanese version. And then, but at the end, they sing a song when she's going up to the clouds and she's leaving, and they're talking about like life and death and like the wheel and the cycles of birth and everything, and that's totally just not in the English version. They just kept it the normal song as they had before.
One of the things at the very end of the movie, Kaguya turns around and you described it as like it's a very haunting face that she is. Like she's so haunted.
She's such a good.
It's when she's like heading back and
to the moon.
Yeah, and like back to her peaceful people and all that. She turns around and her face is just so miserable.
Yeah, it's like it is like
pure misery and attachment to this world. Like, oh, this place that I miss or something. And it's just like throughout the movie, it doesn't like very directly say it, but there's the hint, and it's said indirectly a few times that sometime on the moon or something, she like broke some rules and then was punished and sent to the moon. Right. It's not like she went there. It was she was sent to the moon for her punishment or whatever it was.
Right.
And if you buy from me, I'll come back to you. Like it's when you're punished enough, then you can come back. And so she did something. Her attachment first, like she develops this attachment, this volition that's just pure misery and attachment to something that. Cause and effect brings her to Earth to suffer. She's there for a while, sees all these attachments and things, just gets to like the bottom of misery. She's just so miserable multiple times. Keeps calling back to the moon, and then eventually goes back. And on her way back, you see this massive, like, haunting image of like what a person is really suffering. Like so much internal.
The Earth is ball of misery.
Yeah, it's just this floating ball, and she's so miserable about it. And turns around. Yeah, like that really obvious, blatant thing is just right there, and it's kind of an underlying thing through the whole movie. Mm-hmm. It's trying to. The movie has so many messages all over the place from whatever that are. It's really more trying to convey those. It seems, if anything, be weird to know what the director is actually trying to do, but like things like those tradition things or societal things or just the cruelty to people and status ideas, like all sorts of stuff like that. But this whole underlying message is just if you're attached to anything, your joy, like that the dad in the show is sometimes super happy and whatever. He's so elated over stupid things, and then beat face red. Like at no point in time does he have any intelligence about it. He is not aware for the whole movie. He's basically walking around as like this dead person that's fluctuating between extreme excitement one way and another way. Like the term would be lose face, and he has lost face the whole movie.
Yeah,
like just never himself.
I think it's interesting. I was just always like kind of interested in why they. Well, I don't know what the original fable is, but it's based off the bamboo cutter. It's like this Japanese folklore story. And they always say at the beginning of the movie, well, in the English or Japanese version, just how his name was like the bamboo cutter. Mm. They're like, this is the bamboo cutter, and he discovered this thing, and his name was da-da-da. And I just thought, like, what is this story? Like, where did it come from? Like, why did they make this story about this guy? Is it just telling him about his misery? Like, what is this? Like, it's interesting.
Yeah. The tale about this bamboo cutter. It's specifically about him. He's the one that has the whole journey. And, I like to think that maybe Kaguya, after she turns around the haunting thing and realizes like all the suffering of Earth, that she realizes it at some point and be like, or almost like if that she turned around and that haunting face was like, oh God, this is what I grew attached to or whatever, and then she turns around and then
I don't know what kind of it's just a powerful image face.
Yeah.
Like, it could be like it's misery, but it's more. It's like there's other stuff.
It really seems like it's possible that it's when she realized it's probably not the case and maybe not the intention, but it could easily be. It's like just such a mixed bag where she could have just turned around and been like, now I understand why this is such a terrible thing to just grow attached to it.
Yeah. Such a good movie with everything. So.
Yeah. It's definitely a movie that there's no other movie quite like it. Mm-hmm. Not only for art style, but the pacing of it. It almost seems more like it would be one of those serialized anime or something, like some 12 to 20 episode something rather, where it's episodic.
There's a lot of moments. Yeah, it could be like a 12 episode anime and it'd be like
spend some time on the forest.
If Studio Ghibli made like anime shows, like they'd just be the best.
Yeah,
it'd be so good.
You have a couple episodes of her in like the forest, and then and the day where her and Semaru had stew or whatever never came, and she goes into the city.
And then it's like that's the end of an episode, or, and
yeah,
there's so many moments like that.
Very episodic movie.
Yeah. What else to say? There's a lot of symbolism, like things like the wheel turning and like change, and even when she like falls into the water, the water splash. I've noticed she's like Stimaru, like hold me and like keep me from going to the moon, and then she falls, and the water splash, and it goes up just like it's like a bamboo stalk or something, like one of those things, and I was like, that's interesting. The feel of it, the essence of the animation is like when it's so simple, you just have to get the weight of the characters and everything to read, and it has to be there or else it doesn't work. And there's nothing to hide behind. There's no flashy effects, there's no high rendering or anything. It's just, does this bag on this person's head feel like a bag? Is it there? And then
when the baby's crawling around, it's like, does the baby's foot have actual weight to it?
Yeah, it's all gesture, and it's just like pure like,
pure like almost just the skill and mastercraft
fundamentals of animation.
Most animation in anything from this modern movies in North America or whatever, it's almost entirely lacking when it comes to that type of thing, like the real weight of things and making things feel not stiff, and just by looking at it, that type of really simple animation allows you have to be really skilled to do it, a lot more skilled than you would if you had 3D models and like all this particle effect and whatever. But so
like I was watching this video game some guy was playing this house I was at recently, and they were playing poker in the video game, and they just they threw like the chips forward, and it didn't even look like the chips landed. I mean, like it's it's just some highly rendered, like overly filled with content video game that has no purpose. But so it was just like, there's nothing to it. It's just like so lame. You don't feel like the chips are actually on the table, and it's just the 3D puck, whatever, and it's just above the table, but it's not like it lands.
Yeah, and then to do that with simple animation, like knowing what lines to leave out and stuff. Like there's some scenes where Kaguya's around like a little tree dancing and stuff. They don't even draw the lines like half the time on her. It's just like the basic gesture and outline of her coat as it's flying around and stuff, and skip out on half the leaves on the flowers that are on the coat. And it just, you simplify it down to get like the right movement and the right feel and whatever's there, and that's all you need. And then there's no distraction from with effects and pop-up book features.
You don't even need to see what's there. You can just listen.
No.